Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the revival of Monster-Mania Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Dimension, the journeyman podcaster slash filmmaker, and I am joined by the man. That's all I can really say. The man who makes it all happen, Dave Hagan, who has been doing Monster-Mania now for how many years?
This is the 20th anniversary. Crazy.
That
Crazy.
Is incredible. I think I jumped in at like 2.
I was going to say,
3.
I think you came in at somewhere between 2 and 4.
Yeah. I always, I tell people, oh, I'm already off track, so I'm sorry if you had a format, but I always tell people that, if I'm speaking with wrestlers, I'm like, hey, look, you never know who is watching, because that's how I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you saw me at a show and you emailed me the next day and you were nothing but compliments, and those compliments
I was desperate.
Stopped. They have stopped. So
I was desperate.
I'm trying to get some new ones, but 20 years.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that for 1 second. So when you first started Monster-Mania, and we'll get to where we've been and everything in a minute. I feel that while we're on this, there's something to talk about, because I know when people are in a movie and they go, did you know that you were making this movie that would be a movie that would live on for 40 years and people would keep coming? So my question really is to you, Dave, is when you first started and you had a vision, how many changes have you made or have kept the same in 20 years?
Jeez. Honestly, the boys and I have a meeting, and by the boys, I mean Dave and Doug, my 2 sons. We have a meeting probably before every show, after every show. Actually, we have a meeting after a show. We'll review everything that happened at the show, and then after that 2 hours, we'll then go on to what's going to be for the next show coming up. Because now we're doing 5 a year. So literally, as soon as you're done one, you're into the work of the next one. And quite often that overlaps, but so much has changed. The level of stars that we bring in has changed. I remember the second show when we got Robert Englund. I was like, wow, this is huge.
And now you've had Robert.
I couldn't even count how many.
Right.
Times.
And honestly, you know what, as far as a return guest goes, I don't know if there's any better, simply because he always has such a long line. He takes minutes and time with every person that comes
hours.
And he generally cares.
Yeah,
he does care. I never have seen him ever in a moment, whatever was going on personally in his life with whatever, where he comes to the show and mails it in.
Yeah.
He's never once.
I've seen him work through lunches. I've seen him stay, hours after he's supposed to stay. And sadly, we're all getting up there. We've been doing this for 20 years. He was at our second show. So, 19 years ago, he was Robert Englund, 20th, this is 20th anniversary of Freddie versus Jason, all that. So, he's aging, we're aging.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's not, he says himself, he's not in the shape to play, you know, the character again, although I still think they could figure something out. If
I mean,
Harrison Ford
he briefly was Freddy on the Goldbergs,
yeah,
which
I
was
saw that
fun.
one. Yeah. And he was great. I mean,
100%.
it was him, you know, it was the voice and everything, you know, like I think he's a definitive person for that character. I don't know. People always say, oh, you know, what if Kevin Bacon took over, or this person or that person? You know, we have Jackie Earle Haley coming up at the next show. You know, he tried it. I don't know if there's ever going to be another Freddy Krueger that is going to, you know, hit the mark, you know, like he did.
You know, there's certain actors that just are
The character.
that character.
Yeah.
Whether it's him, whether it's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, like I have a hard time seeing Tony Stark as anyone else but him, even from reading in comics. Like, he's perfect. And I just think that Robert is, you know, I agree with you that I believe that somewhere along the way they would be able to come up with something, but those are big shoes to fill too. Let's not stray away from that. You had mentioned that, you know, there's been other Freddys, there's been other Michaels, there's been other Jasons. You know, we all have our favorites, and I just think sometimes those shoes are almost too hard to fill.
Yeah. One size specific for that person. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, going back to your original question, like how much has changed about the show? I mean, so much has. Like, we've gone into a convention center. I've always heard a million times, you know, you've outgrown the hotel, you know. We limit ticket sales so that it's the same amount of tickets, you know, for each Cherry Hill show. There's not, you know, the chance of overcrowding or over, you know, being over maximum capacity or anything. But, you know, so we've gone to the Oaks Philadelphia Expo Center in Oaks, PA, huge convention center. And we take up the two largest halls of the convention center. The convention center altogether has like 5 halls, but the other 3 are like really, really small. We have the 2 largest, and it's a completely different animal from our aspect, like from running it, but it's everything that the people that complain about being in a hotel convention, it's everything that they're asking for, you know, inside the convention center. But, you know, it's, as far as changes go, we've added a second Hunt Valley show. So now we're doing Hunt Valley twice a year, Hunt Valley, Maryland, doing, you know, the 2 times a year in Cherry Hill. And now we're doing Oaks so far once a year. If that goes really well, we'll probably try to add maybe a second show down there. But, you know, like I said, you know, it's a building process. So, but I mean, like, we've added photo ops back from the original, you know, first conventions. We didn't have photo ops for the longest time. I was really against photo ops, but like, I see what they bring to it now. You know, like, if you can get so many photos done in such a short period of time, and there's so many fans that just want the photo, they're not interested in the autograph. So having them wait in the line, in one long line of both photo getting people and autograph getting people, it just makes that line longer and that wait slower. So it does enable us to, to shorten that line, so it's just only the photo people. Plus, it gives us the opportunity, which I regret not having them before now. It gives us the opportunity to have group photo ops where we can have, like the upcoming show, we've got the Lost Boys photo group. You can get, you know, 4 of them in one photo op. We could have never done that before. There was no way of coming to our show in the past. Like, when I can remember when we had the Hellraiser reunion, that was the first time those guys had all seen each other since they made Hellraiser. And there was no group photo ops, you know, going back in time. I saw you had posted the other day the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Q&A that you hosted. You know, we could have had, you know, photo ops with, you know, both the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre group, and we could have had the Leatherfaces, but we weren't doing photo ops back then. So that's one of the changes that has occurred over the course of time. And I actually changed my opinion on having those from being dead set against them originally. So now, like, I get what they're for, and I understand, what benefit they are to the fans. So constantly reviewing things, constantly changing. The level of guests I think that we're bringing in now. I mean, this show coming up, Kiefer Sutherland. If you would have told me, I've been trying to get him for years.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we used to talk about all the time. Is there were guests that were really a huge get for you.
Yeah,
to use that like insider term, but Kiefer Sutherland was literally at the top of your list for so long. I mean, see, I think that people sometimes, if the guest that they want isn't brought in, maybe they think that you're not listening, but you definitely listen to
absolutely
everybody, right? Everybody. So it's not that you didn't want
it's
Kiefer.
Not we're not trying.
Right. You wanted Kiefer. Like I can remember
Years.
It's got to be I couldn't even tell you how many years, but I remember I sent you a message and I was like, congrats on Kiefer, man, because I thought like it had to literally make your day to just get that yes.
And I'll tell you, the first thing I do, I text the boys, hey, we just got Kiefer.
Any way to get on that text pool that you've got there?
Absolutely.
I would love to be on the inside again. I haven't. So much time has passed that. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. But this just got me rolling about Kiefer. But you send the boys a text, and I can only imagine what that is. It's probably disowning Doug and then talking about
that of course that, but I mean it. I went to bed that night feeling great. I got the text from the agent, same agent that we had for when we had Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy and all other kinds of films and movies and television shows. But same agent, I had wanted to get Charlie for the longest time, and he texted me, are you ready for this? And then he said, you got Charlie. So then he did pretty much the same thing when we got Kiefer, and I was like, wow, man, like I said, I can't thank you enough. This means everything to me. It means everything, to my kids. It means everything to the brand of Monster Mania. Like it is something that I have wanted to have for many years now, and it was a great feeling that night. So I'm
so
really
happy for you. I'm happy.
Yeah, I was thrilled, man. I really was.
I know that anytime that you're when you own something, for you, it's Monster Mania literally has become more and more. It's taken more and more of your time, and now it's your life. Literally.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing when I'm able to see something like that come through, and I'm able to see how happy the fans are to be able to get their Young Guns signature or their Lost Boys, or maybe they're a fan of 24. This definitely allows you to bring in the casual fan, or maybe someone that isn't going to come because they believe it's all horror, and someone says, no, wait, Kiefer Sutherland's going to be there. And if that person's not into horror, they may not really remember Kiefer for the horror, but maybe for everything else.
Yeah, Young Guns or whatever.
Sure. When I left that movie theater, when I went and saw Young Guns, I was ready.
Too, man.
I was in the middle of New Jersey, just ready to have a
shootout.
I was ready to look for my horse, and I remember
taking the boys to see Young Guns 2 in the theater.
Yeah, I saw Young Guns 1 with my dad.
Yeah, it was great films.
Really,
man.
great
films.
Film.
I'm a big Westerns fan anyway, but I mean, like, boy, like that was like they even tried to do another movie I forget what it was called.
They did Young Girls or something. Remember where they had not young girls, but they did a film.
We're gonna get kicked off YouTube first episode.
Well, it's been nice while it's lasted. But they did a Western with girls. I think Drew Barrymore might have been in it.
Yeah.
Where it was the similar vein where they were trying to come up with, because I feel like for a minute there, when something hits, everybody tries to jump on that, and they all want to try and get do a Western or
I remember the movie I was thinking of, there was a gangster movie that Mobsters, maybe.
Yes.
Is that what it was? Like, where they took the same premise, like the younger generation of lead actors, and they made like young gangsters. But I don't think that movie did nearly as well.
I can tell you, I never saw it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
It's
like, it's when something's popular, like when The Exorcist came out, like how many versions of, the exorcism movies did we get for years? Still
getting. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's hard. So let's go backwards, because that's what we do here, and talk about
constantly.
What have you been doing for the last 5 years? If you can imagine, it's been like 5 years since we've done.
That's crazy, man. When we were talking, like right before we got on here, we were trying to figure out the time. It was 2018. Because now that I think of it, I was looking up our old podcasts. I wanted to listen to some of the old ones just to refresh on some things. And the last one I found was like 2018. So pre-pandemic. And since then, geez, we could do a whole episode on what having to cancel, MONSTER-MANIA 45 was like. Geez.
I you know what? I definitely would like to talk about that, but not right now. Not since we're just coming back. But what have you been doing?
In that time, I quit retail and dedicated all of my time to MONSTER-MANIA. And it really, it's almost a 24/7,
Do you remember when you called me and you were like, I'm thinking about stopping retail? And I said, I don't know why you're still doing it.
Yeah. Everyone said that.
And I said, I don't know, like MONSTER-MANIA, you can continually grow. This is something that isn't just limited to one venue. Like you've said, you have new venues. You're now adding more in Maryland. Who knows where MONSTER-MANIA is going to show up next?
But and honestly, it was always fear, like always in the back of my head, like, like everyone else, I had those times when, 1 month I could pay the electric bill, the next month I could pay the gas bill. But there was never a month that I could pay the electric bill, the gas bill, and the rent or the mortgage. Like, I've had the utilities shut off. Like I've lived that, and, retail helped me get out of that. And then I started, MONSTER-MANIA, after being in retail for, I don't know, 20 years or whatever it was. And it was always my safety net. And I was always afraid to let go. Like, I'm haunted by all those years of struggling. Like it was hard, man. It was exceptionally hard. And I grew up that way too. Not to get into too much, but not to get it too deep with it all, but like, that's why I hung in for retail and doing MONSTER-MANIA for so long. I was afraid, dude. And then, so I decided in 2019, I'm going to do MONSTER-MANIA, no more retail, no more safety net. What friggin' happens? Pandemic. 2020, pandemic comes, no MONSTER-MANIA.
I can remember talking to you.
I was scared to death.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were.
Yeah.
It was a very...
look how many restaurants went out of business. Look how many venues went out of business.
Places are still going because they said what they've made since then just does not equal.
It doesn't fill the hole.
Yeah. And I think the one big thing that really, from my view, that has really changed is theaters, and we can talk about that even a little bit too. I don't know, man. I was in Raleigh, and things literally got shut down. And I can remember there was a guy that was like one, like when you have we were in a high rise, we were fancy, and there was a guy that was like on his porch outside the terrace, and I remember looking up, and he was like, "So what do you think?" And I was like, "I don't know." And right outside our door, there was this restaurant that was constantly full. And then all of a sudden, it was like Night of the Creeps, right? Where there's nobody. I was
Yeah.
expecting to see sand piles, but there were no sand piles being where the people were. It was really, really crazy. And then we lived through some of the rioting and stuff down in Philly. But for those that don't know, I contracted COVID very, very early on. And I would say I'm still not 100%. I am what they call I have long COVID.
A
And
long hauler, is that what it
a
is?
long hauler, yeah, but I mean, it's like it's long COVID, and the UK is doing a little bit more than we are as far as medication goes. But I'm finally, after 3+ years, I'm finally starting to feel better. I still
Well,
don't. I
I
can't,
mean,
like.
I talked to you through that period,
It was
and
bad, real bad.
you look and sound so much better
Yeah,
than you did back then, Rob. I mean, there were times when I hung up the phone with you and I'm like, wow, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
He's gonna die.
I kept thinking, oh man, I wonder what
Yeah,
collectibles
man.
he's got that I can get.
There was a period where they were like, hey, you need to maybe think about a will and blah blah
Mm.
blah. And I was like, holy crap, like I can't even. But I don't want to bring it down, so let's talk about theaters. I figure that's a good spot. I know that you travel far and wide for a movie for yourself, to sit and enjoy some popcorn and watch a good flick. So how has theater going, the experience, how has that changed for you?
Um, yeah, there's a lot less people at the theater.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem getting the aisle seat anymore. Um, well, that's one of the things like that wanted to talk about. I mean, like we've had the Flash bomb at the box office,
Yeah.
and
Black
then
Adam.
a week or 2 weeks later, Indiana Jones and a Die Off Dysentery comes out, and that's bombing
I
worse
don't know
than
if that
the.
was the official title.
Well, that's what it is now. But so now that's bombing at the box office.
Yeah.
So I mean, movie theaters, the Regal near me is on the list of Regals that is supposed to be closing down. I'm surprised it hasn't closed down yet. Great theater. The one near me is awesome.
So
But
they've said that they're going to close.
yeah, there was a thing that came out, a news story that came out, I'm going to say 3 months ago, where Regal listed, I think, like 40 locations that they were not able to pay the rent in any longer. And the parent company was giving up the leases, like filed for some kind of legal, I guess, like some variation maybe of bankruptcy, where they could get out of honoring the leases that they had in these 40 locations. And it's one of them's the one near me. So um uh, it's a shame to see that happen, but I wonder how much of that is based on, like, we've got the two movies now that have completely bombed,
Mhm.
super expensive movies, like over
Yeah.
300 million to make the Indiana Jones movie, and
Yeah.
they're not going to come close
No.
to making the money back on that. So is it a question of, is it poor writing? Is it has streaming taken a deep bite out of it? Are people just going to say, "Oh, I don't want to see it. I'll wait until it comes on television"? Is there better options? Is it because there's more options available streaming wise that your need to go to the theater isn't the way that
Well,
it used to be?
we can use the two sequels to Halloween as good examples, because I believe they both were in that pandemic area. they both released on streaming the same day.
Yep.
So,
which I don't understand. I mean, we had talked years ago. If you go back to the older podcasts, I had said there's going to be a time in the foreseeable future, although I think COVID pushed that timeline up 10 years.
probably.
But I had said there's going to be a time when movies are going to come out simultaneously, streaming and in the movie theater. But I thought what was going to happen is I thought you'd have to pay like $15 or $20 to stream it at home, as opposed to buying a ticket in the movie theater. But I mean, now they're streaming on things like, was it Peacock Plus,
Disney Plus,
Disney Plus,
Mhm.
HBO Max, which is now, I think, just Max. Like, I never expected them to be on platforms that you'd pay $15 a month for and get these movies
If
the same
that,
day they're released in the theater.
I think
Yeah.
Peacock is like less than 10.
Oh, I don't
I don't
know.
even know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think that, so I have not been to the movies since pre-COVID.
Oh,
I've
really?
not. Yeah, I don't like being around a lot of germs.
Yeah.
Now my immune system's not the best, but it's getting better.
See,
So-
it's still the escape for me. Like, like we were
See,
saying.
and I know you are an avid
Oh, yeah.
movie lover.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you and we would talk about cinema, and I feel like, I always thought that it would sound sad if I said, like, movies are my life, right? But they really are. As I've gotten older, I've come to accept the fact that I love it, and I know you do too.
Yeah. I mean, they always were,
Yeah.
again, Monster-Mania is dedicated to the memory of my dad. And the reason that is because it seemed like every Sunday, whether it was or not, I don't know. I have to ask my sister. I think it was every Sunday. We would go to the theater, horror movie double features. And that was my escape from living in a bad neighborhood, just again, we didn't have a whole lot of money to go around. And all through my life, movies have been the escape. They still are to this day. Like, I love going to the movies at 11 o'clock, somewhere between 11 and 1 o'clock, for an early showing of whatever new movie's coming out. I'll go to the local theater, and I put the phone down, I turn the phone off. For those 2 hours, I'm not answering emails, I'm not answering text messages. Monster-Mania is put on hold for those 2 hours. Otherwise, I mean, like, I'm dealing with Monster-Mania stuff almost 24/7. First thing I do when I wake up to the last thing I do before I go to bed. And I'll wake up in the middle of the night solving, potential problems. Oh,
Sure.
if we put this person in that room, that'll be better because of this reason or that reason, crowd flow or whatever it is. Like, I literally wake up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning solving Monster-Mania problems. At least I think I am. So like, the movies is still that escape for me. Everybody that knows me is like, oh, I'm going to go see, like, I saw Flash opening day. I saw Indiana Jones opening day. You name it, I've seen it probably opening day or within the first 2 days of it opening.
Mhm.
It's still that place for me that I feel totally at home. It's a great feeling. When they close this theater near me, I am going to be really upset. It's going to be heartbreaking for me because I love going to that movie theater. But I wonder, with these two movies particularly, I think this is a crucial time for movie theaters, for filmmaking. We got the Screen Actors Guild going to be going on strike. If they haven't already, I'm not even sure. Maybe they have already.
Is that the writers? I think the writers.
Well, the writers are on strike too.
Yeah.
And now the actors are going on strike. So now you've got the double whammy, and from what I understand, the writers are complaining because all the revenue that these companies are making from streaming, I think the writers aren't getting, their fair share of, whatever the streaming money is.
Gotta be
So,
something.
and apparently they're asking for just like a small amount of money, but supposedly that's what that's about. But with these two movies failing, both of these movies cost so much money, and both of these movies are tanking. So I think this could be the turning point for movie theaters to say, hey, do we want to, is releasing in the theater viable anymore? Certainly big budgets, $300 million movies are not viable anymore. Say what you will about a Blumhouse movie, because from what I've been told, they're basically, frugal, I guess would be the nice way of
Yeah,
describing.
their budgets are usually on the smaller side.
Yeah. But, then they have to take in less money to make money. Where if you're making a 300 million Indiana Jones movie, geez, man. After that opening weekend, what are you doing?
I guess I would be curious to know how, because there's always going to be a market for another superhero movie, whether it's like another Avengers or whatever that costs, $300 or $400 million to make. How do they make that revenue back? Are they going to start to play the long game and have release in theater, streaming, hope that merchandise sells? The problem is that for the Flash, or I even mentioned Black Adam, which was supposed to be a huge blockbuster, and that was another that was considered a flop, and they don't
until the Flash came out.
Yeah, they don't even think the Flash is going to make that.
No.
So, but what happens is the merchandising really does not sell. It all immediately goes to clearance.
Yeah.
So I really don't know how viable it really is anymore, which is a shame, because I love a good popcorn movie just like crazy. Like, I'm a big Transformers nerd. So I like watching the Transformer films because they are huge. I just don't know if maybe the format of making something longer and making it a series and having it on a streaming platform maybe is a good plan for them. Like, I know that Disney Plus had some real hits, but now they're starting to come into where everything that Disney puts out isn't gold. And
Yeah,
I'm hearing about that Echo series, which is, I believe, a Marvel series. It's either Marvel or Star Wars. And I had heard that they almost were going to do what they did with the Batgirl movie, which was just shelve it.
Yeah.
So if you are in a position where, Disney has, they can afford to have a few series tank or movies tank, but not too many, because we're talking in millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions. Yeah.
Yes, because it's not even just this film. They're hoping this works, so then they can go to the next one. So now that all gets scratched out,
Yeah.
So it's.
But see, I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it is the writing. Like, I know they've had numerous Disney.
Well, you saw Indiana Jones. Tell me what you thought of that.
I liked. They go back, and I'm going to try not to do too many spoilers. They go back in time, and they de-aged him, and he's fighting the Nazis and all that. Mads Mikkelsen was awesome in the movie. I came out of the movie thinking, wow, we got to get Mads Mikkelsen back for Monster-Mania. That's my honest opinion of what happened, when I saw the movie. Did
you like the Crystal Skull? Wasn't that the fourth
I didn't
entry?
like that one too much. But it seems like that what Disney is doing is they're taking the characters that people love, like Luke Skywalker. What they did with Luke Skywalker in that last trio of movies that came out. Even Mark Hamill said, even Mark Hamill said that's not the Luke Skywalker that I filmed, and they kind of did it with Indiana Jones. Like, there's a scene in the new movie where he's literally the get off my lawn guy, where he goes and knocks on the door to tell some guy that he's playing music too loud. And it's like, oh man, you know, like they're taking these characters that are beloved characters to so many people, and they're just, you know, altering them to bring in new main leads, which, for coincidentally or not, I don't know, seem to be British actresses, you know, to take over. Like, I forget the girl's name, the actress in Indiana Jones. Like, it was alluded to that she was going to take over the role of Indiana Jones, just like happened in the last 3 Star Wars movies. You know, I think they're losing their audience by not being faithful to the characters that the audience love. And I think the audience is just turned away by it. So
I have a rebuttal to that. So when I was a kid, okay, I went and saw Star Wars, grew up on Star Wars. So I had 4, 5, and 6. So Star Wars does not grow with me. It's going to stay the same age that, so for 1, 2, and 3, they have to cater to the same age demographic and then do some fan service for me. In 7, 8, 9, okay, now they have to go again to the well, even younger, because they have rides at Disney, they have toys, they have t-shirts. They have to keep the demographic the same. So is it that we are getting older and it's no longer appealing to us, or are they just completely out of touch? Because it's hard to tell.
I think they're out of touch. I mean, granted, I acknowledge, you know, my age and my interests. You know, I mean, every time a new version of a Universal monster movie comes out, you know, I mean, I'm complaining about a Leatherface with a red shirt. You know what I'm saying? So
still,
not letting that go.
Oh my God, that's the hill, bro. That's the hill I'm going to stand on.
But I mean, you know, you look at what they've done in Disney in Florida, where they took out what I'm going to call the classic characters of Star Wars, and they forced the characters that you would interact with and see dressed up. They forced them to be from the last trio of films, trilogy, whatever. And nobody liked it. They opened up that super expensive hotel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that hotel, right?
And they're closing it already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're closing it because no one is interested.
I gotta talk to my friend who goes to Disney at least once a week, so I have to find out.
See, I think if you like Darth Vader, you like Darth Vader, no matter if you're. I think a 12-year-old kid that sees Star Wars for the first time is going to like Darth Vader as much as we did.
Okay, so then we get Darth Vader and Luke on The Mandalorian. Did you watch The Mandalorian?
No.
Okay, so The Mandalorian's very good. Very good.
Is Darth Vader in that? I saw the one scene where
he was in Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Now I watched that. That was okay. I thought that had some good things, but I thought they were trying to make
too much fan service.
Well, no, I thought they tried. I thought they put too much emphasis on that one woman that was the villain, the main villain for that show.
Yeah, and I know that they're trying to spawn new shows off of those shows, which I completely get. But to get Hayden Christensen to come back and play Vader, now that was what I would call fan service. But at the same time, I loved it, but I really didn't love his portrayal of Vader in those films. I loved him in Revenge of the Sith. I thought he was, you put someone that's kind of, not perceived as evil and make them evil. And a lot of times you're gonna hit it on the mark, because we all know how the story ends.
Right.
We all know how Star Wars, how the story ends. So now when they're giving that to us, okay, it makes sense. But the first two, I could do without. I don't know why we're talking about Star Wars on a Monster Mania podcast.
But see, the irony of that is
sense.
that Hayden Christensen was really not a fan favorite when those movies came out.
Right.
Yet when that Obi-Wan series came out, he was one of the best things in it.
Yep.
So
and
everyone
loved
does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the new stuff is so bad that what people hated in the older stuff, they now love in the new stuff because the rest of the new stuff is just awful.
Is everybody else following along? I hope so. I'm just making sure. I mean, we are just coasting right now. So I like this. Dave, I know that when you messaged me earlier, you had some topics that you definitely wanted to discuss. So lay it on me, man. What do you got?
Well, one was the streaming. How, is streaming affecting movie attendance?
100%.
Yeah. And
no doubt.
What's because of the failure of The Flash and the Indiana Jones movie, what repercussions are we going to see from that? Like, horror seems to at times survive and sometimes even regenerate film going.
Low budget.
But back in the day, Frankenstein and Dracula, the 31 movies saved Universal Studios. And then when Universal got in financial trouble, they re-released them because back in those days you couldn't, a movie would hit the movie theater and then you'd never see it again.
Right.
They re-released them on a double bill and it saved Universal Studios the second time around. So, we've got some, horror movies coming up. Insidious is coming up. The Nun 2 is coming up.
I saw
it.
By the way,
this
is still current. You had messaged me and said, I really like the new Evil Dead. Go see it. Evil Dead Rises.
Yeah.
So that is currently streaming. That streamed relatively quickly also.
Yeah.
So I saw that. And what made you, I know that this isn't really what was on your format. I asked for it. Then I go off.
Yeah, then you take it away.
I know. But I feel like everyone loves Ash. Everyone. So when I go back and I watch Ash versus the Evil Dead, I've watched that series like 2 or 3 times back through. I love it because of the comedy, and there's just something that Bruce Campbell brings to the Evil Dead series. So when you get a new Evil Dead, so they tried the remake in maybe 2009. I'm not sure off the top.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the year.
And then they do it again. So when we both saw that, the remake, the first remake, neither one of us were like ecstatic about it. It was a lot of blood.
Yeah.
A lot of people like it. And I feel like maybe it's something that if I went back to now, maybe I would appreciate it.
I tried. I tried earlier this year, and my son Dave likes it. Him and I went to see it when it first came out together, and then I think at the time neither one of us were all that thrilled with it. He's grown to like it a whole lot more. I gave it another try. It still doesn't do it for me. But Evil Dead Rises did.
Right. I was just going to ask.
I didn't like the very end. There's some CGI creature in the end that I kind of was like, But so I liked 95% of it. But I thought the actress Alyssa Sutherland, who we're having at the show, I thought she did a great job as the Deadite. I liked that it was in a different setting. Like, I looked at what I thought was the creativity of the story of it. Like they took something, like they could have done, Evil Dead with Shaq in the woods for the umpteenth time, but they brought it to a new location, did a new type of version of it. So, like I said, I liked about 95% of it. The end, I would have, if it was me, I would have redid it a different way. But,
so when is she going to be at your show? What?
She's at the August show.
The August
4th
show.
To the 6th.
So do you think, being a promoter, this is a promoter's question, I would think, but I'm curious. if it wasn't streaming, do you think there would be as much demand for her? Is this one of those opportunities where streaming actually helps the word of mouth and build an audience for them in a time where people aren't really going to the movies or going to see movies? This is like, imagine if we're 1984 and it's HBO and it just hits HBO. I feel like we have that same feeling where there's going to be more people interested now because it's more accessible.
I would say probably half of the people I know that have seen the movie have seen it streaming. So, the short answer to your question is absolutely. I think I think there's just a reluctance to go to the theater. People are figuring, why spend $15 for a movie ticket and whatever else you're going to pay for popcorn and soda when you can watch something else, maybe not that particular movie, but you can watch something else on streaming for the cost of microwave popcorn.
Speaking of, if we go back, I meant to tell you, Harrison Ford is on a show called, he's on a show on Apple TV called Shrinking, I think, or Shrink. He plays a psychiatrist who's starting to have Alzheimer's a little bit.
I was afraid they made a movie of your sex life or something.
No, Shrinking. Cut that out, editors. Hey, so I actually feel like he's made for kind of at where he is, Harrison Ford. He's so good in that get off my lawn role. And even in the Q&As that I've seen him in, that he does when he was on the junket for the film, he still has that very quick wit, very good, very funny. So, maybe it's the vehicle. Maybe it's not necessarily the actor or the circumstance of being in theaters. Maybe it's
the writing.
It's the role. Maybe it is. Maybe you're right. I found that series to be very good. I think we watched it in 3 days. I thought it was great. My wife is a huge Harrison Ford fan, who she apparently was going to marry when she was 13. I'm glad that didn't work out. So, I just am, I'm curious to see how things go at the show for the Sutherland lead role in Evil Dead Rises, because I really feel like she's going to just get, it may not show dollar wise on ticket sales, but for the movie, but I feel like she's going to see this just a massive amount of people that are going to say, because she really did. She did a great job as the Deadite. She really did.
And what was interesting about that movie, I thought the emphasis was more on the Deadite than it was on, the hero.
Other characters.
Yeah,
I agree with that. So what else do you have on the agenda for today, Dave? I know we were going to talk about Trick or Treat Studios.
Yes, Trick or Treat Studios, of which I'm a customer, a wholesale customer. They sent me an email about 10 days ago that said they've decided not to continue the license agreement with Universal Studios. This includes the Universal Monsters merchandise they have, the Chucky merchandise they have, American Werewolf in London, and Halloween, which I thought wow, I mean, for as long as I can remember, the Trick or Treat Studios Halloween masks, I mean, going back to our podcast from before, I can remember
years
how
ago
excited
when they first started.
Yeah. I can remember how excited you were to be getting some of the masks. So now, are they going to become collector's items? Is somebody else going to pick up the license? Is Trick or Treat going to go back and maybe renegotiate? I would think that probably the Universal Monster license is a set price. I don't know whether it would be by franchise or if it's just overall, but I was honestly shocked to see that. Like, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with, what's next. Are the Trick or Treat Halloween masks going to go up in value? Is another company going to come in?
That's a great question. See, and this is also, we talk about how things are moving, right? So our collectibles and movies and everything, it's all very fluid. So now more than ever, there are people out there that will make unlicensed. But do you see how I'm saying, like, how that can make an impact?
Yeah.
So you may spend more money on a Michael Myers mask, let's say, than you would through Trick or Treat Studios. But the difference is that this is not something, this is someone that can take all the time that maybe a collector is looking for. But there's tons of unlicensed material out there that has to play in to a part of it, whether it's I'm a big toy guy. And now the new thing is, if you want a character to, like, just their head, for instance, in the beginning. So if you start at that and say, well, I can, if it's a certain, if it's 1/6 scale, the heads are $40 everywhere you look. So Etsy has 1 million of them. Anybody you can think of. So to me, instead of you buying a product that might cost $40, you can piece it together, you can buy the head, and it looks exactly, it's not something off of a factory line. So I really believe that knockoffs are a huge part of their decision. I don't know.
I wonder.
I'm just saying that I really feel that, because whenever you go to any, like I said, Etsy or eBay maybe not so much, but even Amazon has knockoff stuff. So it has to be very hard for them to yeah, it has to be very hard for them to police that. It has to be.
Like, I know in a lot of cases, people will buy the Trick or Treat Studios mask and then send it to these other people that would modernize it or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Improve it, So, like,
and it's not that Trick or Treat doesn't do good work. It's that they
it's
have
still mass produced.
A factory, right? So if you have an individual that says, I can only do 10 at a time, and the wait is like 3 months, okay, and it's going to cost you an extra $100. But if you want something that is specifically, like, I mean, looks like it could be a studio double, I just, I feel that that's where a lot of this extra money that people did have, besides the pandemic way of spending, where everyone was spending money kind of frivolously on anything that they wanted. But now you have the ultimate collectors that are out there that want specifics. And I do believe that it's very hard for a large brand that has so much. You said Universal is huge.
Yeah.
Just to get a creature from the Black Lagoon. Not only that, but licensing has also become really big. And people that you didn't think would have licensing rights now have licensing rights. It's almost like, the licensing is like, okay, who wants what? It just seems like the expo that is in Vegas, the licensing expo, that it just happened not even a few months ago. Who knows what's up for grabs?
And some things like, again, I'm a diehard Universal Monsters fan.
Yeah.
If you want to create a Bela Lugosi Dracula piece of merchandise, you've got to get a license from Universal for Dracula.
Right.
Even though Dracula itself is a public domain thing at this point, but the Universal Dracula is owned by Universal. You got to get a license from them for that. And then you got to get a license from the Bela Lugosi estates to use his license, his figure as well. Same thing with, his visage. Same thing with, if you want to do a Boris Karloff Frankenstein, you've got to license the Frankenstein name and look from Universal, and you've got to license Boris Karloff's face as Frankenstein from the Karloff estates.
Right.
Same thing with Chaney. I mean, some items you're getting, if you're somebody looking to produce something, you're having to pay 2 licenses to just have a Bela Lugosi Dracula,
And let's just talk about Bela. So you are a huge Bela fan, like beyond anybody that I know, like for real. So whenever I see anything that's Dracula related merchandise, I'll send it to you and I'll say, hey man, did you see this? And
no, you won't. You don't send it to me. You send me a picture.
I send you a picture.
There's a difference, Rob.
There's a big difference. So, and we've looked at together like some very expensive pieces.
Yes.
And on top of it, I wonder how much licensing goes, because you have said like, oh, it needs to have this color on the inside of the cape. Oh, it should look like this, or it should look like that. So I wonder if there's licensing restrictions on just how close something can look, because have you ever, as a Bela Lugosi fan, have you ever found a piece that you have thought was perfect? We've looked at expensive statues.
I bought them.
What, recently?
Yeah,
like the last couple of years. See, and you were mad. You were like, "Oh, this was like 1900. How could you?"
Oh no, it wasn't that. No,
I was going to say, because
no,
we looked at that one,
like,
and you were very,
very
critical.
I was looking behind me. I thought I had it in this room, but I probably do. I just don't know where. Oh, you know what? It's downstairs.
But you're very critical.
Yeah, because like I am a Dracula, Universal Monster fan, and one of the things that they always get wrong when they do a Dracula figure in color, they put the lining of his cape as red. Now I know that the James Bama artwork for the Aurora Bela Lugosi Dracula model kits, the one
back in the 60s,
like that,
right?
Yeah. They used the red lining for the cape there, but in reality, the lining for the cape was gray. So, I bought this. I bought this one figure. I forget what the name of it, the name of the company, and it's hard to get Bella's face right. So many people have tried, and so few have gotten it right. They got his face 100% right, but they screwed up. They got the cape wrong. I sent them an email and said, you guys ought to offer.
The cape is gray.
Yeah,
get it together.
Yeah.
But have you picked up? Have you picked up the NECA?
Shirt is not red.
That's correct. It just isn't. Have you picked up the NECA Dracula figures? I think that they just came out not too long ago.
Yes,
and they were at mass retailers like Target or Walmart.
Yes,
or online or your store or whatever.
Yeah, right, I get them from Paul at Amok Time.
Yeah, Paul's the man.
Yeah.
So how do you think they do?
I like what NECA has done with them.
Because they're cheap. They're not cheap.
It's $40, $35, $40.
Right.
They've got a new Phantom of the Opera coming out with multiple heads. It looks fantastic. They've got them with the mask on, and they've even got a head that is like when she sneaks up behind him and pulls the mask off, he looks at the screen and he, like his eyes get wide and his mouth pops open. Yeah. They did a head that is exactly from that scene. And like when I saw that, I'm like, I got to get that.
Look how excited you are.
Yeah.
Man. But they also offer color and black and white.
Yeah.
Which I find,
Sideshows first started doing that back in the day. Before I started Monster-Mania, the convention, I was Monster-Mania, the merchandise store online. Yeah. And the Sideshow action figures came out, the 7.5 inch ones, whatever
Mhm.
whatever size it is.
And at the time they weren't they like
They were like
100?
what's that? No, they were
Weren't they
$14.99 a piece.
the original Sideshow ones?
Yeah,
Oh, really? I thought they were
not the
more than
dolls
that.
that came out later.
Oh, okay.
You know, although that not dolls, action figures.
Yeah,
They're dolls.
please.
They're dolls.
Please.
They're wearing clothes. They're
Yes. I have a
dolls.
room full of dolls.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. Yeah.
But when Sideshow came out with the monsters, then they came out with the silver screen edition, the black and whites, and they sold really well. So then, you know, other companies like NECA has done that. I'm not going crazy with it. Like I'm really trying to. I've pretty much stopped buying collectibles for the most part. Although, you know, a Bela Lugosi Dracula thing's gonna reel me right in.
I just
now
saw
that the Phantom's got me too.
A Killer Clown from Outer Space's popcorn gun I saw.
That was
it's
really
a new
popular.
one. It's a new one that's $100.
Yeah.
And I was this close today as I was sitting working. I was so close. I was like, do I need something else, Killer Clowns? Because I feel like last year Spirit Halloween went above and beyond for Killer Clown stuff, and this year it looks like they're not stopping between them, and I think Spencer's is connected with them.
Isn't it crazy? One of our first show, our very first show, we had the Chiodo brothers at the show, and they did the thing where we showed Killer Clowns at midnight. And they bought these giant bags of popcorn and threw them all around everywhere. The movie room. And then the hotel was so pissed off at me. They came up there, I mean, literally, the floor was covered in popcorn. And they have like these giant, like super industrial vacuum cleaners. And it kept jamming up their vacuum cleaners. And they had like bags. I don't know how many bags of popcorn the Chiodo brothers bought, but holy God, they must have cleaned out the local stores. And I had to pretend like when the hotel's coming up to complain to me, I had to pretend like, oh, I can't believe they did that. I knew all about it.
Can we just talk about how there's a license that has basically died and now it's bigger than ever.
Bigger than
ever.
Bigger than when it came out.
Yes. Yeah. Because Trick or Treat's got figures coming out from them. They have all the masks. NECA has figures in their pipeline. You go to Spirit Halloween and there's a whole section of Killer Clown stuff, or you go to Spencer's. It's amazing to me how this movie has. So the VHS, I looked again. I used to have it on VHS, and the VHS was literally like, I think it was what was it? Fun Time movies. Yeah. So they were cheap.
That was bottom of the
$5 movie, right?
Yeah.
Now those movies on VHS are $100-$200.
Really?
It is the madness for Killer Clowns is so crazy, and we all have asked, when are we going to see Killer Clowns 2?
And they want to do it.
The question is for you, Dave, do we really need it?
I mean, we're in the time of franchises.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Led Zeppelin got back together minus Bonham, although his son filled in. They did that Celebration Day thing. It was phenomenal. It made up for a couple of their past reunions that didn't go so well, like one-offs.
They did Farm Aid in Philly?
No, Live Aid. I was there.
Aid, that's it. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. That was the last time they all got together, or did they get together?
No, they did something for Atlantic, for the 40th anniversary of Atlantic Records, and then they did the Celebration Day thing.
Man,
and this Celebration Day, man, if you're a Zeppelin fan and you haven't seen that, stop watching this podcast right now and jump over and watch that. But and it was phenomenal, man. I mean, it was tremendous.
We've talked about, I have a very soft spot for Robert Plant. I feel like he was a staple in my 80s, whether it was Pictures at 11.
Yeah.
Pictures at 11 when it came out. I remember being because when you're a teenager, or entering teenager, Zeppelin was like the thing, especially because I grew up in upstate New York, and it was like flannels and Zeppelin and painters hats, and just
See,
like this.
I never saw Zeppelin. I had tickets to see Zeppelin. Zeppelin was supposed to play JFK Stadium, and then they canceled the tour because the son died.
Yeah,
I had tickets to that JFK Stadium thing. It was, back then. I think
man, you are digging deep when you mentioned JFK.
Yeah, well, that was
JFK
yes, and Peter Frampton was there.
That was
I saw the police there.
Eagle Stadium way back.
Yeah, way
back.
Yeah,
way back before the Vet.
But that's where Live Aid was.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but I mean, going back to the Killer Clowns question. So after this hugely successful concert, everybody thought Zeppelin's going to go on tour now. Robert Plant was like, no, I did everything that I can do on that stage tonight. There's not going to be, there's not going to be a tour. So the question with the Killer Clowns is, do I think there's a market for it? Absolutely. Do I think they should do it? I don't know. I think they would have to get together, and I would imagine by now there's some script that's probably close to what final version that they would do.
It has to be finished. I'm assuming it's funding.
It would have to be really good.
See, that's the thing. Like, do we really want it? Like,
right.
Sometimes something can go to the well too many times.
Right. Return of the Living Dead 2.
Where
Return of the Living Dead was another one of those Killer Clowns kind of movies.
Oh my God.
I
walked to the movies 3 days in a row to go see that movie.
But how many people have even seen Return of the Living Dead 2? How many people even know there's a Return of the Living Dead 2? And then if you saw it, did you like it?
And then there was a
Fright Night Part
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. I mean, they just kept going. I think
Sci-Fi. I think.
Yeah,
right?
3 was
Sci-Fi
good.
Man. Yeah,
3 was good. Completely different story. But
if you get me a Killer Clowns reunion at one of the next shows coming up, I'm there. I'll host that podcast.
Okay,
I mean, I'll host that thing. If everybody wants Rob, that's the line. It's not for
we're never going to see them again.
So if you think I'm coming back for anybody else, nope, just Killer Clowns.
I gotta ask you, dude.
Yeah.
Completely not prepared. Yeah. Behind you, of all the movie posters you could have, behind you for this podcast, you have Halloween 6.
It's one of my favorite movies.
My goodness.
Come on. It's signed by
we had the reunion.
Yes. So it was, to me, I don't know. So I'm one of those nerds.
Now, are you talking theatrical release?
Well,
or the producer's cut?
So that's where the story gets deep, because I was a nerd that had a VHS copy of the producer's cut, as grainy as it could be, and I loved the producer's cut more than the theatrical cut, just because I'm going to say it was batshit crazy. It really was. It really, when Michael's fathering a child and you have a cult involved and the Man in Black and all these things, when I met Mary Ann Hagan, who I met there, in fact, I literally just conversed on Facebook within the last couple of days. I have to tell you, this was like a come to God moment for me, because out of all the movies, this is the one that I was like, man, I like you, and you told me like, oh, we're getting everybody together. And I can remember like, I lost it, because it was a movie to me that was, the timing was right in my life. And I'm a big proponent of when things happen that are in your life, whether it's seeing a movie with your dad, whether it's where you were, who you were with, maybe the circumstance that were happening in your life. And man, that movie just checked all the boxes for me.
Dude, I got a funny story for you.
I love it. If it's about Halloween 6,
it is.
I'm down.
Wait till you hear this one. back before we did Monster-Mania, all that stuff, I think even before I had the online store, I had a copy of Halloween 6, the producer's cut, and I had 2 VHSs, and I dubbed copies of it, and I started selling them on eBay. I was one of those people selling
of the producer's cut.
Of the producer's cut, and I did it.
I got to talk to you about the quality of mine, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
I want that $20
Well,
back.
It was what it was. But I wasn't the one that started it. Like, I just got a copy. I sold like a few. I mean, literally, probably like 5, maybe. But I did that because I was a big fan of the producer's cut. Like, I was like, people have to see this. So I put it on eBay, and I get an email from this person that wants to know where I got the copy from. And I was honest. I said, look, I bought it off of eBay, and I'm just making copies of this. It was Dan Ferrand's.
Really?
It was the writer of Halloween 6.
So I actually have a story about that.
So let me finish real quick.
Sure.
So he says to me, do me a favor, please don't sell this online, whatever. So yeah. I stopped selling it, but I emailed, like in the email, I responded back to him and I said, man, I just want to tell you, I really, really enjoy this. And I really think, that somehow, some way people need to get a chance to see, your version of it, not what was released in the theater. So super nice guy. Haven't actually met him in person yet, but would love to have him at a show sometime or another.
He was at your show. He was at your show in Maryland. I'm next to him. I don't know who he is the whole weekend. He tells me his first name. Hey, what's up? You know how you exchange pleasantries. This is when the dealers were upstairs where we do the Q&As.
Yes.
He was with Mikey Perez. And I was talking to Mikey. I think you sent me Nikolai Volkov, and I was entertaining him. I was showing him card tricks, and he was freaking out. He was the best.
He was the best.
But Daniel Ferrand's was next to me, and dude, I had all weekend, and I couldn't ask him one question because I didn't know who he was.
Oh wow!
I'm telling you, I believe I have trauma from that. Is there someone here I can talk to, because I need some sort of counseling, because I would have asked him a million questions. He was promoting a documentary, I believe.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I do remember that now.
He was promoting a documentary.
We've had so many shows, I forget.
I know
who's been at what. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
When I think about that, if you really want me up there, Dave, we need Killer Clowns and Daniel Perez. We need another reunion. So, yeah, that's one moment where it's such a. I don't have words. I've friended him on Facebook, and
super nice guy.
Oh my God.
Still
100%.
Working, still in the business.
Yep. Still is. I'm not sure if he was behind. Was he behind the Sleepaway Camp documentary that was coming out?
I'm not sure. I kind of lost track of his nonfiction writing.
Yeah.
Like I was following, like, his screenplays for, fiction, film treatments, but I lost track of what documentaries and stuff he's been doing.
Yeah. Another Halloween 6. Well, I mean, we're not limited to time. I sent away in the back of Fangoria or Gore Zone, one of them, I sent away $20 to get someone's script for what they thought should be the next Halloween at that time. It had Michael being sacrificed at like Stonehenge, and it had the police chief. Now it's like his son is in charge, and I don't want to ruin somebody's podcast or whatever, but as someone who didn't know anything, it was amazing to me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, amazing.
There's been a book out that I think that features different treatments of Halloween films that were never made.
Is there something?
I'm pretty sure that there is.
Oh, then I got to look for that.
Yeah,
because
I'm pretty sure that
that
there is,
is.
I remember I bought the one. There's a Freddy versus Jason one as well.
Oh, really?
That goes over all the variations that of what they were going to do with Freddy versus Jason. There was one they were going to put him in a boxing ring in hell, and Adolf Hitler was going to be one of the people that was in the audience. Like there was all kinds of crazy variations of what Freddy versus Jason was going to be.
I think dogs are attacking the door outside. So yeah, it's okay. So what else, Dave? What else do you have? Since we've gone completely rogue.
Yes. Here, speaking of people, like you were talking about collecting things and stuff like that, for people that are fans of like the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that Netflix put out.
Okay.
And the Hellraiser that I think that was Netflix too. I forget. It was one of the streaming services. Might not have been
have been
Netflix.
Hulu.
Okay, one of them.
I'm not sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
There's no physical media of either one of those two. And I don't know if there's going to be any. So for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
if you need a guy, got a guy. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
I always got a guy. My stepson, my wife said something to my stepson, and my wife said to my stepson, Rob has a guy. And his response was, Rob always has a guy.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, now here's two huge franchises that there's avid collectors of, and there's no physical media.
Disney Plus is the same way.
And I'll tell you, both of those movies I liked. And I didn't see
the Hellraiser, but the Texas Chainsaw. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've watched it now, I don't know, 5 times, because to me, there is something very, very organic in Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. I have another question for you. I'm going to give to you right now, and then we'll circle back. Is Texas Chainsaw Massacre the best franchise? So think about that, all the movies they have out. So Netflix buys it. I feel that the movie that buys a license, the movie was really good. It gave me everything that I need. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was
that bus scene.
Right. Just great.
Yeah. We had him at the show. Super nice guy. Mark Burnham, the new Leatherface, super nice guy.
So did you guys have a Q&A with him?
Yes.
Was that you, or did you do that?
Someone else.
I was curious if what his, because we have, you and I at the conventions have lived through many different faces of Leatherface.
Yeah, incarnations. Yes,
whether
we
it was
have.
Bernarski, whether it was Dan Yeager. We've been through
Gunner.
Gunner, who, man, I'm gonna tell you, it's hard to find a nicer guy. It was harder, very hard to find a nicer guy. He was somebody that I really, that moment I cherish. That little bit of 45 minutes that we did. I did a few Q&As with him, actually.
Yeah, we had Gunner a few times.
And Leatherface 3 was
you mean R.A. Mihailoff, Rob?
Yes. Yeah, and then we had The Next Generation. So we've had our fair share of Leatherface. So to me, when I think about it, I'm curious as to when you take over that role, how within the day of social media, how it's perceived. To some, some are going to say Nick Castle's Michael Myers. There's nobody else, right? That's my favorite, whoever. It's not going to be a Dick Warlock. It's not going to be, anybody else that's put on the mask. So I'm curious in modern times with now, not so much when, you know, they were releasing a lot when it was just magazine, and maybe you would catch some stuff on in a chat group or whatever. I'm wonder how it's perceived. I wonder if people are as positive, because I tend to think that horror fans can be pretty, they'll open their arms up for people when they see something and they really think it's magical. And I'll use magical as a word when we're dealing with these people that saw people up and stuff, but I don't know how magical it is. I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, I think when the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre recently came out, I saw both good and bad comments about it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. I thought, I mean, was it flawed? Did it have flaws? Yes.
Of course.
Does almost any movie nowadays have flaws? Yes.
It's hard to make something like that without flaws.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I thought they brought enough to it. I mean, honestly, I liked it a lot better than some of the other installments in the series that were released in the theater. And, you know, the thing where he spins around towards the end, I think almost the final scene with the saw. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, that's Gunnar Hansen from part one.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, you know, whether you want to call it, you know, fan service or what. I mean, he stayed within the character that Gunnar Hansen created, I thought. I'm not as avid a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan as you are. So you might, like, I might like it and not realize that, oh, you know, it didn't pay, you know, homage to this, or it didn't follow the, you know, the script for previous films or whatever, you know.
I don't know if whenever we have,
I know there was some kind of complaint about the mother or the person that was acting as his caretaker. I don't know whether it was supposed to be his mother or not. I forget off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there was some kind of fan blowback on her character's relationship to him. I'm not quite remembering what the complaints were.
I think that whenever you have an installment where you have 6, 7, 8, 9 other movies, it's impossible to you have to figure out the path that the 1974 movie was on. Right. And it was groundbreaking in 74. So how
this is 2000 at that time, this is 2022.
Right.
When that comes out. I mean, how do you continue the heart and soul of something from 50 years ago? And, you know, like that's, you know, you're putting yourself in a very tough situation, you know? And
yeah.
I thought they got enough of it right.
I'm with you 100%.
But I want a physical copy of it. And I think that one of the problems with this streaming is that if they're not going to release physical copies of this stuff, I mean, like you have a guy who has a guy and all that type of thing. But for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, you can buy the Leatherface from that Netflix film and a character. It's already, I think, NECA made it, or one of the other companies. You can buy an action figure of that Leatherface, but you can't buy the movie.
Yeah, it's a company called Hiatus.
Okay.
It has not come out yet. It's
okay.
And it's cheap. It's like a $25 figure.
Yeah.
It's 1/18 scale, which is like 3 3/4, like Star Wars.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. But they have 2 versions. They have a bloody version and a non-bloody version. But so back to the question I asked is Texas Chainsaw currently the best franchise, if you had to figure that in? Because we just had Halloween's. There was a lot of complaints about Halloween.
Oh, dude, we could have, thank God we weren't podcasting. If you thought, thank God we weren't podcasting when Halloween Ends comes out, because if you thought I was bad with the red shirt Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, holy cripe.
Yeah,
it would have been.
You can't tell me that the whole
bloodbath when Halloween Ends comes out
wants to hoist this guy all through town and put him in this machine to grind him up. I actually like the second one the best. When they did the flashbacks,
I agree.
it was so good.
Dude, I
man.
agree.
So good.
So many people don't like Halloween Kills. I thought just for the flashbacks alone, it was incredible.
Do you know why a lot of people don't like it?
No.
Because Evil Dies Tonight. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
They overdid that a touch.
Yeah,
we could have reeled it back a little.
We had that reunion down in Maryland, and Anthony Michael Hall was hilarious. He went off on, oh, I heard everything everybody said, and he went off on all these variation of Evil Dies Tonight. Like I can't even remember everything he said, but I mean, it was hilarious, dude. But yeah, I agree. I think Evil Dies Tonight ruined the film. You know, I not for me. I mean, I got it. It was a little bit over the top, but you know, a little bit too much. But I really liked how I thought the brutality of Michael Myers in Halloween Kills was, you know, that was the Michael Myers I had been waiting to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the flashback, he was brutal on that. And you know, and James Jude Courtney as you know, the later non-flashback Michael was, I thought he did a really great job. And again, another super nice guy. The guy that was Michael in the flashback was Aaron Armstrong. Super nice guy. I did we had them out at Oaks, and I hosted that panel, and I'll tell you, like, that was my gift to myself, because I would say still, I know you're leaning towards Texas Chainsaw Massacre as being the best franchise. I'm a diehard Halloween fan. I know, you know, I know they had what was it, Resurrection. The Rob Zombie ones I almost don't even include.
Oh, don't you dare. I got the Rob Zombie Michael Myers on my own.
Yeah.
See, and that's the mask I was actually thinking about, not to go back to what we were talking about. That mask when part 2, when it's like kind of half on and half off, that mask is now becoming available.
Well,
so to me,
we're having Tyler Main's going to come to the show for the first time with us. He's doing a Michael Myers in costume
so sick.
Photo op. Say again, now this is something with the photo ops, going back to the photo op conversation. This is something we couldn't have if we didn't have photo ops. You better believe I'm getting a photo op with me and Tyler Main in the outfit.
Dude, let me tell you, you still can't say that when so I want you to think about, you're going to think of me when you stand next to him. You're going to think, if this guy was Michael Myers, I want to not be wherever he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's like 6'10".
Yeah,
he's huge.
Yeah,
huge.
And we're giving away trick or treats doing the 3 masks from, I guess, you know, the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. And we're giving away, one of the people that's going to be in the photo ops is going to win the set of 3 masks. So that's awesome.
That
so
is
you're going to
awesome.
come up and get yourself a photo op, get in the running.
I might do that.
But so I would say, I mean, for me, the Halloween films franchise is still my go-to.
It still is, like, so to me, it's a constant inward battle. I know a lot of people are out there probably thinking what bills to pay, or, you know, graduating or work or whatever. And in my mind, it's every day, what's best, Halloween or Texas Chainsaw? That's what's going on in here. So because I go back and forth a lot, because I think it depends on, there's
flawed installments in both. And the ones that are flawed are really flawed, you know.
Yeah, Texas
Leatherface
Chainsaw,
with the lipstick, like you know, that wasn't a fan of that.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like he's
and then there was the later one that was released.
It's the Pretty Lady mask.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a lot in Next Generation. I feel like that was a lot in, and because I don't remember really seeing a lot of that in the initial remakes that they had. They had the 2 remakes, and then they even had the prequel where he's at the meatpacking plant and they close it down.
Yeah.
And I feel that movie's good. I don't really dislike. I grew up on watching Leatherface 3 on repeat. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of like the era where I was buying VHSs and rewatching them over and over and over and over again. So to me, when he has the speak and spell, I love that because he's trying to say food and
Yeah.
it's cat, or people. But that's a good one. But I just was curious as to where you sit. And we
I
kind
got
of
to
sit
go
the same
Halloween. Like
places.
I'm still a diehard Halloween guy.
Yeah, they're
As
just
much
gonna.
as I love Robert Englund, I'm a diehard Halloween guy.
I think that my issue with Nightmare on Elm Street is that I went to the movies and saw like 3 and 4. And in that era, I feel like I was really like on board.
Yeah.
Was on board with it then. 3, 4, and then when 5 came out, what was that? The Demon Child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Or
I still
Dream
like
Child or
5.
something.
I kind of, when they came out with what was the one with the 3D ending, Freddy's Dead.
Yeah.
I think that kind of
And
lost.
that wasn't bad. I thought that was a pretty good at the time. I thought that was a pretty good ending because they modified the makeup for Robert Englund.
Yeah.
They made him look more almost like a demon
Yeah.
rather than something that was burned. Um, I don't know. Don't you think it's crazy that we can buy these murderers in Target? So I can go to like the super Target, I can buy a t-shirt, I can buy underwear, socks, I can go buy some milk, maybe a snack, and then I can go buy Michael Myers.
Isn't life great?
It's great. And actually the new Michael Myers from NECA looks really good. Just putting that out there if you're a toy guy and you're
No,
looking.
which one is that? Is that
It's Kills.
Oh, okay.
It's Kills, and it looks good. I think they're making that also in a quarter size, which is like 18 inches tall. So, you can definitely get, you know, your fix of whatever it is you want. But now I think that statues and stuff are just getting to be prices where they're just out of my league.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? Like they had this.
Like you said earlier, like I've gotten, I think the most expensive Bela Lugosi item I got is like the $400 one. It's made by a company in England. I forget the name of it off the top of my head.
Still, that has to be. What kind of collector are you? And again,
I've pretty much
let's ask the
stopped.
fans. Let's ask the fans. So it's at Toxic Clown Rob and at MONSTER-MANIA Con on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right.
And they can respond in the comments below.
Yeah, 100%
for this YouTube.
Yeah, I'm curious as to that. Like, what are they collecting? What's out of the price range? I start getting into I have like an Optimus Prime on pre-order that's 500.
Woof.
That's it's like 20 inches tall, looks badass. I mean, when you talk about a woman getter,
yeah, that'll do it.
Have you seen my Optimus?
It's not Prime.
It's a little.
It's out of its prime. But to your point earlier, when you were saying about getting heads on Etsy and all that kind of stuff, like there's the collector out there that will buy, an item, collector's item, and not open the package.
Mm-hmm.
They want it sealed in the blister pack, or they want it sealed in the box or whatever.
Yeah.
So is that collector also buying the Etsy? I want to say, I'm going to
let's
use
even
the word
say like
homemade,
stickers.
but whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Are they buying stickers or candles? Like candles is a huge thing. Is it going to smell like Dr. Loomis's office? You know what I mean? Like there's a million things out there.
When you were talking about earlier,
the heads,
the Etsy heads and all that stuff, is the same collector that's buying, the blister pack and buying, the glow in the dark one, the silver screen one, the full color one, and the bloody one, like the 4 different versions of whatever the figure is that person also going on Etsy and buying the head? And like you were saying, like, basically putting together their own item? I don't think so.
Well, I think that then you have people that are buying an open and one that's in box, let's say. That's not me. I don't have that. I don't have that kind of bread. You know what I mean? I can't, like, even the figures that are $40, that adds up, man.
But you could
know
buy
what I mean?
$10, $40 figures for that Optimus Prime.
That Optimus Prime has been on my list for like 2 years. I'm buying that. It's already
so
pre-sold out.
But we've talked in the past on the phone over the last 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How we were both not collecting anymore. And here I am.
Dude,
I got my Bela Lugosi.
Can I tell you what started it?
And now you're buying $400 Optimus Prime.
It was the pandemic.
Yeah.
As soon as funds became, we had expendable cash because we weren't going out to eat, we weren't buying gas, we weren't doing all these things. You know, we weren't buying maybe new clothes because we weren't going out, all that. And then for me, that's kind of when I started, and I started very small. And I know you want to talk about Troma, and I am a diehard, as you know, for Troma stuff. And I started grabbing the Toxic Crusaders, and then it became Bucky O'Hare, and then it became something else, and then something else. And now the reason why I'm doing this from my wife's office is because mine is literally like, I look like I should be on an episode of Hoarders. It's bad. It's bad. But what I was going to say is that the $40 figures, even that starts to accumulate, you know, and the days are gone of, you know, I know that a lot of people talk about autograph prices on how they used to get them for free at the table. And then it was, oh, they were only $20. And then we have this and this. But we have to understand that, like everything, it advances. So $8 figures are no more. Now it's 20. You know, Super 7 puts out their reaction figures, which are 5 points of movement, and they want $20 a piece. Yeah. So it's expensive. And I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to stop.
See, that's like, you talk about, you know, those figures. I can't get started on that. I saw, and trust me, I know I'm going to wind up with it. I shouldn't even record this because I'm going to wind up with it. But
what's it going to be?
There's a Bela Lugosi Igor figure that they make that I want to get. But I know, like, that's just going to start me down the path of, well, then I got to get, you know, it's the Igor from Son of Frankenstein. Well, then I got to get the Frankenstein from Son of Frankenstein. And then I got to get the Frankenstein from Bride of Frankenstein. Then I got to get the, you know, and it just, you know, so where does it stop? So far, I've resisted getting that Bela Lugosi Igor figure.
I don't know how you have not gotten the Igor from Young Frankenstein.
I had that from Sideshow.
No, this is from Mego. It's a $20 figure or $25. It looks just like him, dude.
I had, when Sideshow came out with the Young Frankenstein figures, that's back before Monster-Mania. That's when I was doing the merchandise business. And when you got the Igor on the prototype, they had the eyes crossed. But in the factory in China, they thought that was an error, so they straightened the eyes. So when the figures actually got shipped over and received by Sideshow, Igor wasn't cross-eyed anymore. So, like, that's just a little fun trivia.
It is fun trivia. But yeah, so we were talking about Killer Clowns. I saw that Killer Clowns Mego had gotten the license and made like 3 or 4 3 figures, I think. And of course I had to have all of them. I can't just buy one. Right. That's the problem. Right. When you start down the path, right, is where do you decide, okay, guys, this is enough. You know, it's maddening. Yes. Hey, let's jump to Troma. I know that you had something to say about Uncle Lloyd and all his madness down there in New York.
So it turns out that YouTube has banned the Troma channel for, quote, severe and multiple violations of community standards. Now, they were banned once before, at least once before. They were banned in August of 2020, and then they returned a month later with a lot of people, complaining to YouTube and vouching for them. So I don't know what's happened between 2020 and 2023, but now they're banned again. They've made multiple videos saying that they've lost 50 years of their art, I guess, that they put on YouTube. I can't imagine that they don't have the original copies of the things they put on YouTube. I mean, I would hope that they would, but I mean, maybe they just released so much that they used YouTube as the storing house for it. I don't know, but so they've been banned once before. They got put back. Now they're banned again. Without a warning? They didn't even get a warning this time. They just got an email saying, you're banned because you violated, multiple severe and multiple violations of community standards. And when they asked which community standards they were, they didn't get a reply.
I think that YouTube is pretty fickle. Troma stuff is not hard to come by. You have Troma Now, which is their streaming service, which is like $5 a month. And you're going to get they have a pretty large library on there. Then you can go on Tubi, and Tubi has a pretty large library between that and Full Moon Pictures. Then you can go on, there's a few other streaming services that are cheap or free, like Crackle and stuff like that. And a lot of times you can find the Troma stuff on there. So I'm not really sure as to what's lost, because there's no way that they don't have the originals. There's no way.
I would think
they're never going to. The originals though are. I know that they're redoing. I saw the other day they're making a 4K upgrade to the Toxic Crusaders, which was a short series, an animated series that they were pushing for Saturday mornings. Then they also made it a movie, which was just kind of condensed. And I know they're redoing that 4K, which looks amazing, but there's no way that and I've seen photos of what inside Troma looks like. They have, like almost 2 of everything that was ever put out by Troma. So the only thing I can think of is to tell people when they're at Monster Mania, Troma always has a table. They are in when you come in
the hallway,
and at the end of the hallway, on the left-hand side, that spot has been their spot forever. Go grab. They usually run deals. Go grab the movies that you want. If you're afraid of being censored, then grab the stuff that you want to see. And this goes back to physical media. You and I are both physical media people.
I 100% support physical media.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that have bought, I know what happened in the video game world. And I would imagine it's probably happened in the film industry too. There are people that have bought, video games that they can, just log in and buy. They didn't buy the physical media of it. They bought it online or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then after however many years, the company that supported it says, oh, we're not carrying this game anymore. So even though you bought it, now you can't access it. When Netflix,
that happens with Vudu. You have to be very careful when you buy movies that are streaming. So they'll give a deal for like $5. I think on Vudu, I've bought What About Bob twice because it was there, then it wasn't, then it came back for sale, and I bought it again for $5.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, I want to watch What About Bob because it's a funny movie. At least I think so. And you want to. So that's I think what really is at the root of what we're talking about, physical media. There is nothing better than being able to put in a disc, put in a VHS tape. If you have the accommodations at home to put on the reel,
if you're like me, pop in the 8-track.
Yeah, right. Well, I got news for you, dude. It's not just you. My first car had an 8-track player. So man, Kiss sounded so good on 8-track back.
I loved how they switched over right in the middle of a song.
Yeah. But so for Troma fans, whether you're a fan of Troma or Full Moon, I have a large library of Full Moon stuff as well, just because a lot of times I'll come across them cheap, $5 for a disc. I'm gonna spend $5 on something. In my opinion, if I watch it twice, I've gotten my $5.
Absolutely.
Right. So when Richard Band used to come to the shows, I bought the figures that he had. They had figures that were released. Then they had the dolls that were like the stunt dolls or whatever they called them, which they were really just replicas, like $200. I bought Pinhead because I thought Pinhead was the man. And I am very rabid when it comes to the physical media conversation, because I cannot stress enough that if we continue to go down this road of streaming, okay, it's fine and good, but at the end of the day, I need to have the ability to go in my office.
I agree.
And I'll have 1,000 movies and I want to watch that movie. And if I don't have it, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
Right. So I don't know why I'm collecting. It's not for anything other than just for myself.
Right.
When it comes to that. So do you collect? Is there any reason that you collect physical media? Like, are you trying to amass this large library, or is it just for you? Is it a personal thing that's part of your collection that maybe holds the closest place for you, the ability to just watch whatever you want? We don't have to worry if it's streaming somewhere. We can just put it in and watch.
Well, I'll be honest. I find myself less, and I hate to say this, but I'm being honest. I find myself less and less and less watching physical media as much as I collect it. Like going back to Lugosi. There's a film he did called Mark of the Vampire, which when Universal didn't bring him back as Dracula, he went to MGM and did basically the Dracula role, but in a different name. I just saw that Blu-ray is on Amazon, 50% off. It's $15. I got
because they're having deals.
Yeah.
Whenever you're listening to us, they just had deals for the 4th of July, and a lot of stuff was half off.
So I got to get that. So, but along with the physical media, I think one of the downfalls of physical media is that the technical aspects of it are constantly growing. I mean, I bought Halloween. I bought it on VHS. Then they came out with an orange VHS. I bought that one.
That was a Blockbuster, wasn't it? Wasn't that a Blockbuster exclusive?
I don't know.
Because there was a Halloween where they had Halloween
where you got the bloody globe.
Oh, I had that, and I sold the globe.
Yeah,
because I sold it
leaked
quite a bit. Mine didn't. Mine was great.
Oh, mine leaked.
That was just another thing that I picked up at Suncoast Video.
Yeah,
back in the day that I had to have because it was Halloween.
But
that's a good thing. That's what you're talking about. Is the constant change,
the constant upgrading of the physical media. I've got Halloween on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and next I don't think I have it on 4K, but as soon as I buy 4K, what's this, 2023, and 2025 probably 8K will be out. So then do I have to buy it again in 8K? Like, how many times do you have to upgrade your physical media? And honestly, is it worth it? There was, again, with the Universal Monsters, I'm sorry, I'm probably beating that to death. But there was a 4K, there was a Blu-ray version of the Frankenstein films where you can actually see the the
We talked about
appliance
that.
of the bolt.
Is it almost too clear?
Right. You're not supposed to see that. You
Yeah.
didn't see that when you went to see that in the movie theater, but now it's on 4K. I mean, they made it crystal clear, the quality of the video, but you're losing the ambiance of it to some degree.
And that's that would bring you to, how do you prefer to watch? So to me, I'm a big fan of the crackles. So I remember going to the theater and seeing what is that theater where the blob was made?
The Colonial.
Thank you. So I go to the Colonial to see Halloween 2. And so the connection that I had there said, it's got tons of crackles and burn spots. You're gonna love it. And I did. Like, I literally remember going and being so hyped, because we want to be able to capture things. There's definitely a part of when we first saw it. There's definitely something when you first saw Frankenstein, you saw it as a kid. You want to be able to relive that. There's definitely a part of experience that goes along with that, as to where you were at the time,
Or you were with.
Yeah.
What your life was like at that point.
Yep. Yeah. I just loved, I love here in North Carolina. I'm real close to Raleigh, and Raleigh has an Alamo Draft House that I went to a lot before the pandemic hit. And I saw like Tammy and the T-Rex. I saw Howard the Duck. I saw
horrible movies, you're saying?
No way. Dude, when people say Paul Walker's best movie was those Fast and Furious, I'm quick to say no, sir. His best movie was the love interest in Tammy and the T-Rex. But I to me, there's an experience that goes along with it. Like for me, we were talking about stuff. My wife gets mad because they've continued to make Ultraman since the 60s in Japan. The series, it just continues. I constantly buy the seasons that they have of Ultraman. So I have a ton of Ultraman stuff. And she goes, but you never watch it. And I go, that's because Tubi has it for me to watch. I don't have to go scrummage around in the office for it. I can watch it there. So I'll go on and I'll watch it. Like Shin Ultraman just came out, and I'm excited to see that. That was the movie I was going to break my not go to the theater, because it was playing relatively local. I was going to go see that. I did not. And the movie will be on Tubi in probably, I don't know, another month. I'll buy it still, because I have to have it. There's some series and some films but like you said, you buy like just constant. And I'm a big VHS guy, where I went to a VHS convention, and I'll buy the VHSs of stuff that has not been brought into DVDs or Blu-rays. There's still a ton of stuff that's sitting. So yeah, I'm excited. So Dave, do you have anything else, or are we wrapping up here?
Last thing I got, I know we've gone on pretty long.
God, we just talking.
Going along with what's free on television, Pluto just launched a free Godzilla channel with Kaiju films showing all day long. I know you're a fan of that.
100%. It was on the weekend it hit. It was on the whole time, and I was like surprised at the titles that they had, and I was like, oh, I gotta watch it on. Like, I've seen them all, but yet when the ability to see them on TV through a streaming service happens, I'm just a nerd for it, man.
I can't explain that. I feel the same way. You know, if a Hammer movie comes on television, I'm thrilled to death. But yet I've got at least 2 versions of it on the shelf. I've got it on DVD, probably on Blu-ray too, and most likely on VHS. But there's still something about it being on your television set. It's like, wow, you're watching it with the rest of the world at this time or something.
Because when we grew up, when the cable channel started, we kept saying, you have this, but I would love to be able to watch horror 24/7, or I would love to be able to watch Godzilla movies 24/7. So now that's available. And I think that we're still in awe of that. Like if you're growing up now, you have no idea what we went through, you have no idea. But I think that there's
I
something
come from the time
when
the movie was in the theater, and then that was it. And when it left the theater,
crazy.
It wasn't accessible. I can remember when VHSs came out. First thing I ever bought was this Psycho VHS. I bought the Psycho VHS before I actually had the VHS player. It's just like I knew I had to have that.
Yeah, I still have my copy of Dawn of the Dead that I bought when it first came out on VHS, because remember, VHSs were $100.
Yeah,
when they first hit.
Yeah,
So
the Psycho was $79.99.
You had Beta and VHS, and Beta was the version when I worked in TV. That was the version we were still using.
Mm-hmm.
And because the quality is much better than VHS, because VHS quality is it's got a lot of noise to it. But once they started with VHSs now are $29.99, $24.99, $19.99, $9.99.
Yeah.
I was in, right?
Yeah.
I was in. So I bought.
And then your local VHS store, after they felt they had gotten the use out of a tape, and they needed to make room for new stuff coming in, they'd sell the old horror stuff for like $5.
Yep. That's when I bought a ton of it.
Yeah.
I bought Return of the Living Dead. I bought Leatherface 3, which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I had Gates of Hell, and I didn't watch that very much because I don't think I was, even though I saw that in theaters, I didn't understand Italian horror until it became more accessible, once Giallo became more of like a thing, and everybody was watching it, and everyone couldn't get enough of Fulci, whether it was even Cannibal Holocaust, which I can remember having a copy of that, and that was nowhere because that was one of the video nasties.
Yeah.
And I saw that drive-in that you had done a screening at out by, was it out in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
The Mahoning?
Yes.
Yeah. They just showed Cannibal Holocaust of all movies.
Yeah.
You show that one, which to me, have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
So the soundtrack does not match the movie. The soundtrack is very kind of free and loose, and the movie is just gross.
Yeah.
But I feel like all those cannibal movies from that era there was I would say a good handful of them that were just Italian and gross and just nasty. But as a kid, I loved it. And I just came across.
It was the shock value. It was like Faces of Death.
That was another one. I can remember that was out for rent. And you would always be like, oh, is that available? No, someone has it.
Yeah.
Is that available? No, someone has it. I would be like, man, this has to be insane. And then you see it and you go, for real?
Yeah.
Like, this is it? It was just very hokey.
Yeah.
There was a lot in Cannibal Holocaust where I definitely can believe those people were missing, and that I saw found footage.
Well, the guy got arrested, or they brought him in for questioning because they thought that it, he had to come with the actors and actresses to prove they were really alive.
You go out and buy it. Look for no clowning around. The package. They are collector's items now. Dave, I think that's going to wrap up everything. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So guys, make sure you visit monstermania.net for all the upcoming shows. Make sure you are a fan and you like the Monster Mania page, because Dave is super interactive with everyone. You can follow him on Twitter at MONSTER-MANIA CON. You can follow me at Toxic Clown Rob. So how often are we going to do this, Dave? Every other week, or like, what do you want to do?
Let's see what our schedules do. I mean, it's, in all honesty, dude, it is so good to see you.
It's great to see you. I said the same thing. I said,
yeah,
man,
I mean, we've been, what people don't know,
you're still
is
handsome.
that,
you're still a hunk.
well, yeah. Except I'm more of a hunk than I was before. I'm hunkier. But I mean, you and I have stayed in touch all through the, from the last podcast to this one. But I mean, I love you, man. I mean,
I love you back.
we've shared some, ups and downs and personal trials and tribulations.
I need to come up when it's not Monster Mania.
Yeah,
I need to come up and hang where we can go check out a movie, and I can buy the popcorn and the drinks.
Yeah, do the popcorn trick,
the famous one. That's not famous because of me. I got news.
Watch, we don't want to get kicked off of YouTube
in
already.
The theaters. It's called the old Hagan popcorn trick. But it's been great seeing you guys. To everybody that's been listening, I haven't been there, but I miss so many of you guys. Not so much to come up, but however, if the killer clown should arise, I'll be up there. I tell people that all the time. I said, give me a reason to come up. I'm not really a fan of the long ride. For me, it's like
so like 8 hours, 7 hours. Yeah.
I can get to Maryland within like 5.5. So if I'm coming, it's going to be to Maryland for sure. So you never know. You might see the old Robster showing up in October. You never know. Is it October this year?
Yeah.
Go over a couple of
October 13th.
What's the next show?
October 3rd. Well, next up we have Cherry Hill, August 4th to the 6th, Lost Boys reunion. After that, we have Hunt Valley, October 13th to the 15th. Sort of a Friday the 13th part theme. We have Corey Feldman, some Friday the 13th people, some other Lost Boys people that didn't make it to the August show.
So people can get their signature.
Yeah, complete, And then November 10th to the 12th at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center in Oaks. Mm-hmm. We have, I think it's going to be our largest Scream reunion. We've announced, I would say probably 5 guests or more for that already, and potential
also
of another
batch of very fan friendly.
Yeah,
very fan.
And again, another film or film series that has been rejuvenated.
Damn, man, I forgot about that as a franchise.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. We'll have to talk about that next time.
Okay.
That's going to wrap us up, guys, for Monster Mania Radio. It was a tongue twister, but I got it out. And Dave, I love you. I appreciate
love you too, man.
All of the opportunities that you had provided me. I appreciate all of the opportunities for the fans that you provide. I know that you hear thank you a lot, and I'm going to say it again. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your friendship, man. We've stayed in contact, after the last podcast up until now, all kinds of trials and tribulations, good things, bad things. And you're one of the guys. Like, I have an inner circle that's a very limited amount of people, and you're one of the key figures in that circle. So.
I'm happy to be there. Someday you'll probably make it to my inner circle with enough luck. Guys, I hope you have a great time, and make sure that you check out monstermania.net for all of your Monster Mania information. Visit them on Facebook, visit them on Twitter at MONSTER-MANIA CON, at Toxic Clown Rob. And guys, thank you and be well.
Goodbye. Thanks so much for listening. Please be sure to like and subscribe.